What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Coach Black, your internet relationship and breakup coach. Today's topic, how to make your ex show that they still have feelings for you after a breakup. Now, I really wanted to title this video, how to provoke your ex to show that they have feelings. Because as you know, okay, you really cannot create interest or attraction where there is none. Now, you can only reveal attraction and interest where there already existed a pool of feelings or emotions. The good news is, in the vast majority of cases, if you're going through a breakup, your ex still has some feelings for you. Those feelings are just buried below the surface of all the anger, of all the resentment, of all of the arguing, and sometimes you probably said or did things that made you look worse after the breakup. And so it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort for those feelings to be revealed. So in a lot of ways, this is a game of patience. And I hate to call it a game, but that just is what it is. You have to have that emotional self-control and discipline to wait for your ex to approach you. Now, there's things that you can and you will do to help push them over the edge. And that's really what this video is about. It's how to get your ex to a point where they're so frustrated that they have to put in more effort to fix the relationship or get back together. Now, why is this difficult? Well, because as human beings, one of the things that we desire the most is to be congruent. Meaning, if I say I am this kind of person, I am a person who does X, or I am a person who does Y, it doesn't mean that I cannot change my mind. It just means that I will fight with every bone in my power to stay consistent with who I perceive myself to be, or who I say that I am. So it's a lot more tricky, it's a lot more difficult, but I want you to pay attention because I'm going to share with you some things that you're going to find helpful and that will help you get the results and the outcome that you want. So if you like that, if you appreciate this video, please do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the future videos that I put out. Without further ado, let's just jump into it. Now, one of the biggest things that you have to know when it comes to a breakup is that for the vast majority of cases, breakups happen because your ex has lost attraction to you. Now, this is sometimes very difficult for people to understand because you're thinking, well, I'm still the same person physically. So what could possibly make them lose attraction? But if you understand the essence of attraction, you know that it's more than just the physical, right? There's an emotional component. There's a spiritual component, right? There's a lot of things that go into those feelings that we all have for someone that we care about. And as you know, it's more than just what they look like. Here's the deal. In a previous video that I made, I broke down attraction into essentially two components of an equation. All right, and in this video, I'm going to add a third component that is not going to complicate it, but it's going to help you understand what exactly can you do to really push yourself over the top. Okay, so we're going to talk about a third component, but let's go back to the first two components that I've talked about in other videos. When it comes to attraction, it essentially boils down to value, okay, minus neediness. Now, what does value look like? These are the tangible things that we talk about when we're talking about what we desire in a prospective partner. It might be what they look like physically. It might be the type of job that they hold. It might be character traits. They're confident, they're assertive. All of these things go into the value column of the equation. Now, neediness are the things that you have to take away from value, and that affects attractiveness. Meaning you can be the most beautiful, gorgeous person, but if you are extremely needy, constantly needing validation, assurance, needing to talk on the phone for multiple hours every single day, needing 50 text messages, all right, and maybe you text your ex, they don't get back to you, and you send 50 more text messages because you're afraid that they've met someone else. This is what neediness looks like. So no matter how attractive or valuable you are, if you are extremely needy, that will hurt your attraction. Now, in a lot of cases, when it comes to breakups, what happens is people stop putting in the effort that made them valuable to their partner in the first place. Maybe you used to be extremely fit before you got into a relationship and you let yourself go. These things happen. Maybe you used to plan dates. You used to make sure that you were always there for your partner, but you got busy with work. Again, this subtracts from the value column. Maybe you were very ambitious and successful in your career, but you lost your job. But not only that, you lost your confidence. So you stopped succeeding in your career. And after a few months, 6, 7, 8 months, your partner got tired of it, and they left. Okay. This is how over time in a relationship, people hurt their value. Now, the other side of this is the neediness column. Sometimes maybe your ex is more of an avoidant personality type. And so after the relationship got comfortable, after you started needing more support for them, maybe they pulled away from you emotionally. And you started to need more and more attention and validation, and you're calling them more, but they're pulling back. And it's almost like the more they pull back, the more you're pushing forward, which just drove them away. Okay, these two things are essentially what tends to cause breakups to happen. All right, your attractiveness in your ex's eye dropped because there was a loss in your value, and also in some cases you became extremely needy. Now, your ex may have told you, I need to work on myself, or work is crazy. These are just the logical conclusions that your ex tells you to make the breakup easier for them. All right, think about it. If the issue is not you per se, right? If your ex doesn't say you did XYZ wrong, then there's nothing that you can fix. They just have to say, well, I'm stressed at work. And there's nothing that you can do to fix their stress level at work. And it essentially gives them the easy way out. But it's also an easy way to avoid conflict during the breakup. This is already a difficult conversation. All right, how are they going to articulate to you that, well, it's because you're extremely needy, and it's because you're not as valuable as I once thought you were. And a lot of times, these feelings are emotional. Your ex may not even be able to put their finger on what exactly has changed, all right? It's a accumulation of everything that is going on currently that has made them lose those high feelings of desire that they once had for you, all right, even though they'll tell you it's something else. Now, when it comes to getting your ex to show that they still have feelings for you, I say this time and time again, in the vast majority of cases, those feelings are still there, even though they are buried underneath all of the resentment, all of the fear, all of the anxiety of your ex, thinking that if I give this person a chance, they're just going to go back to how things were. They're not going to be serious about improving their life, whatever it is that the issue was that they were struggling with. Okay, but the feelings are still there. And the first way to get them to even come face to face with their decision is to go no contact. And I say this all the time, but it really is the most effective way to start that process. No contact. All right. And this is what tends to happen. I was talking to a client the other day, and when we first started speaking, his ex dumped him, gave him some kind of reason like, oh, I need to work on myself, something extremely vague. And before we started coaching, he was still having conversation. They would still laugh back and forth, but she really wasn't putting in any effort to fix things. She was just using him as a safety blanket to make herself feel better whenever she was bored. And there was never really any effort from her part to reconcile. When we started working together, I'm like, hey, first things you have to do is you have to go no contact, okay? Because she will never be able to appreciate what she has actually lost. She will never feel the consequences of her decision if you're still around, especially if you're still laughing and being her friend. Now, that was difficult for him to do, but I told him, I've seen this over and over and over again. And the fact that she wants to keep talking to you is a good sign, but now you have to make her suffer the consequences of leaving you. She can't get to eat her cake and have it. So it's very difficult, but he did decide to follow the no contact rule. Now, what happened was, after 2 to 3 weeks of not reaching out and staying no contact, because even when they were just being friends, he was the one that was initiating most of the conversation. So all of that stopped. No reach outs, no communication, just silence. And over the weekend, she reached out to him, okay? And I asked if I could share this with the channel because it was so exciting, because he was coming from a fearful place. I won't give much details about the situation besides what I'm already sharing now. He was so worried and so fearful that if I don't reach out, I'm never gonna hear from her, all of these things. But over the weekend, she reached out and she said, hey, insert his name, it's been a very long time. I just wanted to check on you. How are you doing? Something along those lines. And this is where I'm going to include the third factor that has to do with attraction and really fixing things, okay? We talked about value minus neediness, and now I want to add comfort, okay? Value minus neediness plus comfort. Here's the thing. When it comes to comfort, comfort is important because a lot of times when your ex has dumped you, they know that they did something wrong. They know that they broke your heart. And coming back for them is difficult because they're fearful about, what are you going to say? Are you going to reject them? Are you going to push them away? So sometimes when it comes to reattraction specifically, you have to insert some level of comfort. The problem with comfort is too much comfort essentially becomes neediness. Being too friendly, throwing too many emojis, laughing at everything they say can turn into neediness, but a sprinkle of comfort is important, because I'm going to share with you how we responded to this message and what my logic was when we were coming up with a response. Now, if you think about it from this perspective, she dumped him, she left the relationship, but she expected to still have access to him. Now, when he's been silent and he's not saying anything, she's starting to wonder, have I lost access to him forever? Is he never going to talk to me again? So from her perspective, she's like, what is the most low risk way that I can initiate conversation to see if he's still open to me, to see if we can possibly fix things if I want to? So she starts with a very formal text message. She says, hey, and then says his name. If you think about it, for the vast majority of people, when you're in a relationship with someone, you don't call them by their first name. You call them babe, you call them baby, or you just say, hey, what's going on, right? But she starts with a very formal text message. This is where I suggest sprinkling in a little bit of comfort. I'm not saying that you go say babe and you say, hey, I love you. You don't have to meet with the same level of formality. You want some level of comfort. You want some level of friendliness so that they're more comfortable to start revealing their feelings. Okay, so that was step one. So instead of responding with, hey, in her name, we just skipped that. We just say, hey, it's been going well. How are you doing? Or something like that. Now, here's the second part about introducing comfort. I tell you time and time again, you don't want to sit and stay in pointless conversations. You have about 3 to 4 text messages maximum, all right, from your side before you end the conversation. But you need to figure out, are they serious about meeting, about seeing each other, spending time together? That's really all you're trying to figure out in these text messages. So the first part was making it less formal. The second is matching and mirroring, meaning she asked a question, then it's okay for you to ask a question in return. Because generally speaking, whoever is asking the questions in the conversation is trying to keep the conversation alive. And you do not want to appear needy, meaning for the vast majority of cases, if your ex sends you a message that's just a statement like, hope you had a great weekend or Happy New Year, there's no point in you responding with a question. You always want to be slightly beneath them, meaning slightly behind them as far as your interest in fixing things. These things are they sound complicated, but for me, when I see these text messages, instantly I kind of can see where your ex is coming from and where you need to be. But big picture, I want you to be thinking, I always want to be slightly behind my ex as far as the progression to fixing things. And as long as you're behind them, this is what I was alluding to in the beginning of them being so frustrated that they have to push things forward. So we start with that, being more friendly to make it a little more casual, so she knows that we're not angry, we're not holding a grudge, so she can be more comfortable. And she led with the question, and then we followed up with the question. And that was the pace that we were going out. By the third text, without him initiating getting together, but just responding, I think the next time she asks a question, you can also end or send a text with a statement. Okay, statements are always better because it just shows that you're not being needy, you're not forcing these conversations to happen. But sometimes, especially when your ex comes in on guard and sounds a little too formal, you want to be a little friendly, a little accommodating to build that comfort to get them comfortable. All right. By the third text message, she was suggesting, hey, I was wondering what your schedule was like so that we could see each other. She initiated that. Okay. Now, while it wasn't a complete home run, it wasn't her saying, I miss you, I love you. It's her being so frustrated because she's seeing he's not doing anything to fix the relationship. He's no longer chasing her like he used to, and he's not begging to see her. And by the third message, guys, she's asking, when can we get together? All right. For added flair, this current case, right? He couldn't get together that weekend. He was busy, right? So we had to push it on to the future. And I've gotten so many examples like that. Don't always take the first meeting, especially if you can't. All right. You want to be more focused on what you have going on, your goals, your ambitions. If you're out of town, you're out of town. You're not going to bend yourself into a pretzel to accommodate your ex. And a lot of times just being slightly behind them, but sprinkling in that dab of comfort, it is important. You don't want to be too rude. You don't want to be too dismissive. This is the role that you play, is looking at the temperature of their messages. All right, looking at how they're phrasing it. Most times, if your ex is extremely formal on that first reach out, it's because they're afraid. They're afraid that you're going to reject them, so they want to have all plausible deniability so they don't look terrible. Oh, well, I was just reaching out to make sure you had a happy new year. It's not because I had feelings for you. All right, so you have to pick up on that when you see that extreme level of them being formal. You want to add a little bit of grace into the text, if you will. You want to make them feel a little comfortable, and that way their guard will come down, but you still want to be behind them as far as fixing things and fixing the relationship. Anyway, that was a mouthful. If you have any thoughts, comments, or questions, go ahead and drop them down in the comment section below. If you want to talk to me about your situation, maybe you're dealing with the same thing. Maybe you've got a few text messages and you have questions. Click the first link in description. We could talk about your situation. I can help you put a text message together if you need it. And I've made several videos to really guide you along this process, but this was a very crucial one I thought was important. Sometimes you have to read between the lines and sprinkle in comfort to help raise attraction. You just don't want that comfort to be so extreme that you become needy. Okay, because value is the most important thing. No contact, not being desperate, that increases your value. Very important, but sometimes you got to sprinkle in a little bit of comfort. Anyway, thanks again for watching. If you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.